Hello and welcome in to the Mountain Brook Schools podcast, Mountain Brook Athletics. William Galloway, I'm the communications director at Mountain Brook Schools. Great to be with you, however you're taking us in, whether it's on YouTube or our Mountain Brook Schools podcast platform. Joined by the legendary class of 2017 Mountain Brook graduate, Warren Fitzpatrick. And Warren joins us on his summer break, I guess a week-long break from College Station. He has recently been appointed the assistant GM as well as director of operations under Bucky McMillan for the men's basketball team at Texas A&M. Warren, thank you for your time and coming all the way to Mountain Brook from College Station just for this podcast.
Yeah, I flew in only for this, and it paid off since you said legendary. I don't know how legendary my Mountain Brook tenure was, but I appreciate it.
Well, let's talk about that Mountain Brook, because you wouldn't be where you are without your Mountain Brook experience, right? We're here at the Board of Education podcast studio in Crestline Village, and you grew up, right down the street, went to elementary school, and kind of tell us about your Mountain Brook journey and how you got to where you are today.
Yeah, it's funny. I mean, I was thinking about this the other day. It's the first time I've left Birmingham, right? So
yeah,
26 years here. I like to think I was away from Mountain Brook during college. Didn't think it would feel like that during college at Samford, but I definitely lived in Homewood, lived in Vestavia, and then came back to Mountain Brook post-grad. And for the past, how long have we been graduated? 4 years?
4 years, yeah.
4 years. And now away for the first time. I definitely think looking at all of it and, looking around like, man, how did I get here? How did this happen? And, I mean, the most obvious factor being when your own Mountain Brook coach is the head coach of Texas A&M. That is the main and really only reason why I'm where I'm at. But I definitely think some friends and I talk all the time, and just how our Mountain Brook background and growing up and all that basically shaped us and got us to where we are. I think you look at all of our friends from high school and everyone's in different areas, and I think it all comes down to the same denominator of Mountain Brook. The school system, the community, just the way we grew up really sets you up to go do anything you want to do in the world. And I don't know. Obviously, Bucky being the head coach is the main reason why I'm at where I'm at.
Yeah, that helps a lot, absolutely. But you carved your own way, right? So talk about that journey a little bit. You were a track athlete. You played basketball. You went on to Samford to do track there, and then went the basketball track from there. So kind of go through your professional career over the last 5 years, and since you graduated in 2017, kind of step by step where you've been and what you've been doing.
Yeah, I think the biggest lesson I've learned is never burn a bridge. I mean, you hear it all the time growing up, right? Your parents or teachers or coaches tell you, like, it's not about what you know, it's who you know, and you never know where someone ends up. Bucky said it all the time to recruits and to our players at Samford he says it now at A&M, is look around your classroom, because those guys in college you're with or in high school, you don't know where they'll be one day. And they could be running a Fortune 500 company and you didn't know it. For me, I look at it as, Mountain Brook is, I think we won number one athletic department, a couple years ago?
Yeah, it's always been up there at the top.
Yeah, so it's funny in college, you talk with friends, you're playing intramurals, and, your friends are telling you, yeah, I started both sides of the ball in football. I started for basketball since ninth grade, and then you watch them play in intramurals, and you just can't imagine what their program was like, what town are they from. Mountain Brook, obviously, high achievers in everything, but especially sports. To be able to start and play on a Mountain Brook team is a major accomplishment. That's basically playing, low-level college sports. So for me, didn't have that chance to be the starter or high-minute guy, whether it was football or basketball. Work as hard as you can to get there, but sometimes it just doesn't work out. There's someone better than you. I think that's one thing Mountain Brook teaches you well, is that there's always someone who is above you. Not in a degrading sense, but like,
there's somebody to work towards, or
no matter what you do in life,
always room for growth.
Yeah, no matter what you do in life, there's always someone who's gonna make more money than you. There's always someone who's gonna be a little bit better than you. Right when you think you are the guy, there's someone a little bit higher up, and it's like, it's a humbling reminder. And so, for me, the biggest thing, I just wanted to be a college athlete. How can I be a college athlete? And I remember sitting down with Bucky, going into senior year, we try out in May usually, or April, and I just said, look, I I want to be a college athlete. I've been trying this football thing out, and now I really want to try track out. I tried doing it the year before, but I got hurt and couldn't do it. And I remember him telling me, like, yeah, like you can do that. I think that's a great choice. There's no harm here. There's no hurt feelings. The reality was set in. Hey, you're going to be on the team. You probably won't play much, but you're on the team. But if you want to do that, you should do it. And so I, for the first time in my life, quit playing basketball. Went the track route with Coach Eccles. And
Can I pause right there?
Yeah.
Did you think that was it? Like you wouldn't be involved in basketball ever again?
It's funny. Actually, ninth grade career prep, one of my favorite teachers ever, Bobby Plummer, was the only person in my life that actually said, hey, you can chase this basketball coaching dream. Everyone's doing doctors and lawyers and career prep for this project you have to study. And I came up to him one day and said, hey, I want to be a basketball coach. I want to be a college basketball coach. And, I don't play much, but like I love basketball. And he just kept telling me, do it, study it, like embrace it. And so I did that project, and that was the dream. And to your point, your question, sitting there with Bucky, I kind of thought, all right, the basketball coaching's probably out the window. We're going to try this different route. And I joined track with Coach Gov, Coach Eccles, and just kind of hop into it, and no idea what I'm doing, but just run. I had a running background growing up with my family, and started doing that. And it was probably the fall of senior year. I came to Coach Eccles and I said, hey, like, do you think I can do this in college? Like, can I be a college athlete, college runner? He said, absolutely. Started sharing schools to look at, and one of those was Samford. And just said, hey, what about Samford? Like, you should probably look at that one. It's a D1 program here. And when you're from Mountain Brook or Vestavia or Homewood, you probably don't look at Samford as a major institution right there in our backyard. And you play growing up, and, Mountain Brook used to play the Steel City Classic there, and you go to camps, but you never look at the campus. And so my mom actually said she'd always wanted one of her kids to visit Samford. So we went on a visit. The whole time I acted like I hated it. I was like, I don't want to go here.
Yeah.
I'm not going as close to home. I'm going to Auburn. That's what I'm going to do if I can't run somewhere. And I continued that season, and Coach Eccles just stayed on me. A major influence to my career and athletic career was Coach Eccles, just encouraging, training me on the side on snow days in the winter. He was always there, and kept pushing me and just saying, hey, try it. Coach Tiffin started talking to me, and basically had an opportunity to go be a walk-on at Samford, right? So now you're sitting there and you're like, okay, how embarrassing is this that you can't run on scholarship somewhere, and you can't even get a scholarship at Samford? And I had no idea how track scholarships work. I'm just thinking, okay, I'm not good enough. But I remember Coach Eccles telling me, go in there with this mindset that, you got to prove everybody wrong. You got to earn your spot. And so late in May of that year, decided on a whim after church youth group one night and said, you know what? I feel led to Samford. I'm going to go to Samford. So I do that, leave all the friends behind. I get told there in the beginning, you're not going to travel. You're not going to really race every meet. And Coach Eccles just kept pushing me. Hey, make them be so good they can't ignore you. You have to pay attention to you. If they're not coaching you, just beat everybody in practice and make them pay attention. When you get to race in a meet, go win and make it. There's no option but to look at you. And so quickly that freshman year, competed every race, was the anchor leg in 4x4, got going, became on scholarship the next year, ran for 4 years. Our relay team set the school record probably 4 times. It's now been long beaten. We're a lot older and slower now. There's been better recruits in that program since. But throughout college, I had that sports pool still. I was studying accounting, studying sports marketing. Another Mountain Brook influence was Dr. Betsy Holloway at Samford, who kept pushing me to sports marketing. Hey, look at sports business. Mm-hmm. And kind of thought coaching was gone, and just thought I will find my way to the sports world, not as an athlete, not as a coach, but someone's got to do the money. Someone's got to do finances and do the accounting, the boring work, and was doing that. And then randomly, right, out of God's will, here comes your high school head coach becoming the Samford head coach, your alma mater, your senior year.
Mid-COVID. Beginning of COVID, yeah. Yeah,
and it's just this opportunity where it's like, what do we do here? I had a job with Ernst & Young Accounting, but I'm sitting here saying, I always want to be a college coach. And I remember calling Bucky one night before they announced it and just saying, hey, I feel like this has got to open a door for me. Can I come work for you in any capacity? And just after a lot of prayer and, a lot of mentorship and consideration, just I'm going to throw away this set job and I'm going to go work for free for this guy. And I look at it, like I said earlier, don't burn a bridge.
Right.
I could have been so mad at your high school coach and saying, I got screwed. I was treated unfairly. Why wasn't I played? Why wasn't I given real opportunity? But I didn't do that. I just supported the program in high school, supported my friends who played, and kept the relationship throughout the years of college, not knowing he would ever be this head coach. And so here it is, and worked for free that first year. And, by blessing, Bucky's kind of taking me under his wing of just giving me opportunity that no one should have at my age. At 22 years old, being the director of ops and then running that for 4 years at Samford, the place I love more than anywhere, my alma mater, and doing that and just saying, you know what, we're going to run this race until I'm told to stop. We're going to try this coaching thing out. I thought it was gone senior year of high school, and I thought it was gone throughout college. And now I'm here moving across the country to College Station to be a basketball coach.
In the SEC.
Yeah, in the SEC, playing a small part, but a part of a big program. And it's funny, like I said, I look back at Mountain Brook, I look back at ninth grade, late Mr. Palmer, who just said, go do it, try it. Like, forget what everyone says and was laughing at you, thinking about you. Like, that's an embarrassing as a kid, when you don't play much and you have this dream of a sport that you're not really good at, right, in the eyes of the community. And there's someone by your side. Coach Eccles throughout high school, hey, go be a college athlete, do it. Like, who cares if it's a small school? If you want to do it, scratch that itch. I had a EY mentor telling me, hey, scratch the itch, go be a basketball coach, try it. And if the community around you wasn't pushing me to do this, then I would not be where I'm at right now. I wouldn't be in College Station, Texas.
Right. Wouldn't if you didn't have those relationships, maybe you wouldn't spend your summer break here in Birmingham coming back. You'd be investing, and building your future there. But there's such a gravitational pull for you because of the influence and because of the people that you're saying, I got to come back here. And I think Bucky has shared a lot of that too on podcasts and interviews and in his introductory press conference, talking about people like, Terry Cooper and a lot of influential people in Birmingham. Terry Cooper was AD at Mountain Brook for decades and brought Bucky on, and just like Coach, he worked with Coach Eccles, Coach Cooper did. Coach, having those mentors up and along, Benny Eves, one of those guys for me. But so Warren, for you, I think you shorted yourself a little bit. You say you play a small role. You were the general manager, and you guys went to the NCAA tournament 2 years ago. Coulda, shoulda, woulda beaten Kansas. I was there, and we still don't want to talk about that. But your role is so pivotal in operations and assistant GM, and that's just going to continue to evolve as the off the court things grow in college basketball. So what if the last we're August now as we record this, so the last 4 months of your life, what have that been like, and what have you learned from your 4 years at Samford that you've carried in to the SEC? You're top of the college game with an opportunity at A&M. So what have you learned over the last 4 months?
Yeah, I mean, a lot. I learned that I don't know a lot. That's one of the biggest things. I think throughout 4 years at Samford, there was a lot of people that I got to know in college basketball who ended up making the jump to Power 4, Power 5. And I would always ask them, hey, what's different? And they consistently would say, it's the same job, bigger name. And I thought at some point maybe we would be at a position like that in that a school like A&M. And I wouldn't know how real that was. And then I got there, and it really is. It's the same job, right? You're problem solving every day. There's a new problem that comes up, and get together as a team and figure out how we fix this, But the difference I would say and what I've learned is rely on the people around you. When you're at a smaller school, and when you're young, I think like our age, and you're thrown into a big role quickly, there can be a lot of pressure to do it all yourself and control it all. And probably mistakenly at Samford did too much myself. And what's been fun is having this massive staff in our program, like for A&M basketball, but then also a massive athletic staff at A&M who all want to help succeed. They're not there trying to say, hey, you can't do the job, let me do it for you. They're saying we want to assist. And so it's learning how do you work collaboratively as a full team and utilize all resources, as in utilizing all the people. And When you do that, I mean, I've seen it in the past 4 months, just how fast things can get done, how high efficiency and high quality things can be done. It's been fun. We have a big staff, a young staff from all different backgrounds, all different schools, and when you're in a new city and you're in a transition period, you get to know each other quickly, and you're hanging out, all the time in the office till midnight. But I would say the biggest thing is just that right there is use the people around you, and help each other, because it's not all on one person, right? It's not just, hey, that's William's job, make William do it. That's this guy's job, make him do it. It's, hey, how can I help you in your job? Everyone wants to see you succeed because it helps the program succeed.
Yeah. And I would say Bucky's no stranger to a big staff. I was one of his managers in high school, and he had 2, 3, 4 managers at a time, scorekeeper, 4 or 5 assistant coaches, and then you get 2 or 3 guys that just show up on game days and help because they want to help, multiple trainers. And so even at the high school level, it's always been a big operation. And at Samford, you look and there are probably more coaching shirts and manager jerseys than there are guys in game uniforms on the bench. It's always kind of been a big operation. So when you take that on and you talk about those principles and those lessons you've just learned, and you oversee that staff, right? What's the most important thing? And I think, I don't want to answer the question for you, but people talk about the human element, the human connection. And you talked about making those relationships. But what is so important about getting everybody on the same page? Because as you go into year 1 in this place, really for you, it's year 8, 9, 10 with Bucky. You could say it's year 20 going back to going to his camps when you were younger. But you know the drill. But everybody else is still learning, along the way. So how do you bring them on board? You talked about that quality time and stuff like that. But how do you ensure that as your operations run, everybody jumps on board and sees it the same way?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's no better person to learn from than Bucky. I think we're all looking at him and learning from how he leads. I think his best trait is how he leads a corporation. And I think what he does very well is he empowers individuals to do their job and do it well. And so that's the biggest thing, is making sure every single person on the staff, every player, every manager, every person in the athletic department, down to the person filling up water cups, like whoever it is, empowering them to feel like they have a major piece of this puzzle. Because I think when you have ownership into something, you're going to care more about it. You're going to work harder. The losses feel more about that it's on you, right? And then the wins, you feel like you're a big part of that. And so I think what I've learned from him is just empower others. How can you get someone to do a job without making them feel less of themselves, right? How do you make them feel more of themselves to get them to do the job? I think he's the best of that. He genuinely wants to hear everyone's opinion. He genuinely wants to let everyone be involved. He is not a one-man show. He's not a, I know it all. He will sit and ask questions for hours to hear your perspective, because he wants to take all the info in and find the best solution. I mentioned we have a lot of different backgrounds on our staff, and what's good about that is that, yeah, we've been doing it a certain way, and he's been doing it his way and winning for a long time, but he's adapted to different things.
Yeah, his way has evolved.
Yeah, and I think a big
time.
piece of that is because he asks other people, hey, how do you do it? How do you see this? How do you guard pick and roll? How do you guard in this? How do you run this offense? And down to how do you market this? Like if it's marketing, whatever it is.
Yeah.
And then he can pull those pieces together. And so I think that's what our staff does a good job of, is our whole staff, we are all looking to learn from each other. And like I said, empower each other to do that job.
Yeah. All right. So I think people come to podcasts for stories. I appreciate you saying all that. And that makes me want to think and ask you some stories. So of what you can share, right? Mm-hmm. Assembling a roster, being a part of that, bringing recruits on campus. Give us some recruiting stories. I want to ask you about that. But then also, I think you and Bucky lived in a house down there for a little while where you're trying to figure everything out before you throw a mattress on an apartment floor. So we talked about kind of the last 4 months, what you've learned and all that. But give us some stories, because this was a very non-traditional, and maybe it will become more traditional with the evolving landscape of college athletics. But the last 4 months of your life have been so helter-skelter. Kind of give us a behind-the-curtain view of, maybe some fun things that have happened.
Yeah, the first thing I think of is, I haven't waited for a ride to school since my sophomore year. My brother drove me to school every day. You get up and you wait for him. Well, for the first straight, I think month and a half, Dave Good's kids may not have been in College Station, but he had the 26-year-old kid because he had a car and I didn't. And we lived in a house together, me, Dave, Mitch, and Bucky. And, it's a short drive to campus, but you can't walk it. And so every single morning, I knew he was pulling out at 8 a.m., and I would get up and I'd do my thing.
Don't miss the bus.
I would not miss the bus. Beat him to the spot. I would sit out on the porch. There was the same little rocking chair, and I would sit there every day, do a little doom scrolling on my phone, and sometimes just sit there and listen. But I knew at 8 a.m., here comes Dave walking out. We'd get in the car, have my backpack on, and we'd head to school. And that was every day for a month. Sometimes we got donuts on the way. That was fun. But
Dad took us to get donuts today.
That was more of an influence on Uncle Mitch, when he'd ride with us too. But there was a lot of taking turns, taking showers, and using the same bathrooms. And,
it's like you're living in a dorm, with your colleagues.
Yeah. Oh man, it was seeing each other for 24 hours a day, every single day. It was a weird life. I remember one day I was just craving Chick-fil-A so bad, and I didn't want to Uber Eats it. I don't want to pay the extra fee, and I had a little bit of time to kill, get some exercise.
You must have not been on salary yet. You were still waiting for all your paperwork to clear.
Yeah, exactly. And so I literally, the closest one I could find, because school was done for the summer, so the on-campus ones were not working, I found a 3-mile Chick-fil-A. So I walked all the way to Chick-fil-A down this long road with no sidewalk by the railroad track.
You're just heading west in Texas.
Yeah.
So you're like, I'm going to go find my chicken.
I'm going to find it. I found the Chick-fil-A. I ate it. I watched the sunset, and I walked all the way back. And that was like my afternoon, or my evening, and we got back to work. It was every day from 8 a.m. to 2 a.m.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of recruiting stories for you.
Okay, I'll tee you up there,
Yeah.
but you got to be panicking a little bit first. You got one guy when Bucky does a press conference, and you're like, hey, how do we? There's one ball, but there's got to be more than one guy.
Yeah.
So how fast was it that you guys were like, we're gonna get make our list and make phone calls? Sounds like it was a 24-hour operation.
It was from. I'm in the Final Four in San Antonio, and this is all starting to happen, and talking to Bucky, and we're hearing things going on, and it's coming together, and Friday night I'm sitting there, and I'm sitting down listening to Adrian. How do you pronounce his last name? Wojciechowski.
Yeah.
Woj, right? I'm sitting down, so excited to listen to him at this seminar, and I sit down and I get a phone call from Dave. I'm like, okay, this has got to be the final deal. And so I walk out, and he says, hey, man, it's done. Like he just signed it. We got to start working. So I walked back in and, grabbed my stuff, get out of there, and immediately went to the hotel. And
all the other coaches see this guy with the Samford logo walk out. And they're like, well,
yeah. Oh, yeah.
We know who filled that job.
I was sitting with a former player of ours, too, at that time. And, he knew right away. He texted me. He was like, yep.
But you went dark on me, too, but I'll forgive you for it.
Yeah. And so we started working right away. I think one of the biggest things I've learned is just how fast our assistant coaches can get things done when it comes to recruiting. Right? We have all of our assistants with like Dave, Mitch, TJ, Kyle, and Frank, and how fast when they know time was on the clock. Right? It was pressure. We were the last staff right there to get hired other than Samford. In the SEC, you got to build a roster with you need 14 players, 15 players to get. And, there were some days it felt like, man, we have nothing going, like, nothing happening. And then in a second, it would just flip, and you got to be ready to roll. You got 2 coaches coming at you saying, hey, we got visits coming in. We got this guy coming Tuesday, another guy Wednesday, and a third guy Thursday. And, how can you do all of these to the best A-plus ability to land these players? And credit to that whole staff. We went 12 for 12. 12 visits came on campus, 12 signees. Unbelievable. And I think just one of the best things about this new situation is learning from those assistants,
Yeah.
Like I said, Kyle, Frank, TJ, Dave, Mitch, they've all done this at a high level, but now watching them all together, it's unbelievable. Credit to one of the biggest ones is McKenzie and Baco, right?
Mm-hmm.
NBA draft pick. We have probably 2 players on the roster, and he says yes, and he commits. And when that happened, the floodgates opened.
Yeah, that's Nick Saban's Alabama's Julio Jones, right?
Yeah.
Get the first guy, and Kalen DeBoer's Ryan Williams. We could sit here and tell stories all day, but Warren Fitzpatrick, Mountain Brook, class of 2017, Samford class of 2021. I'll tell this one story before we go, and just talking about loyalty and all these things that we've discussed over the last couple minutes. We appreciate everybody watching and listening, but this is loyalty to a T. So COVID year, Samford is playing, I think, its first game against that school, D2 school. Samford scored like 174 points. Nobody's there. It's an exhibition game, and Samford scored like 101, 102 in the first half, something just crazy that ended up on Scott Van Pelt that night. But I don't think anybody was there, student section, this, that, and the other. Warren Fitzpatrick is the only person in the student section, and he's leading defense chants by himself. He's still a student at the time. He's like banging on the rail in front of him, and he's making all this noise, and you knew what was coming. You knew what Bucky Ball was all about. I don't think the rest of the Pete did at the time, those in Pete Hannah. But you remember that?
Oh, if you could buy stock early, and I wish there was a way to get
you would have been riding high.
Oh, yeah, that was buying GameStop stock right before, the Reddits came after it. I mean, it was – after that moment, everyone knew Bucky Ball arrived. It was a bumpy first year, but, I mean, he's a winner. He's going to win every single time. Yeah,
and when Samford went to the NCAA tournament in Salt Lake City, it wasn't a matter of if I was going to go. It was when, and it didn't matter that the plane tickets cost whatever. I don't think I had accrued enough vacation days to take off and fly on the team plane on Tuesday, but I was close. So anyways, it's going to be a great ride. Thank you for your wisdom and your time and all that you're doing to represent Mountain Brook along with the staff, Dave Good, Bucky McMillan, everybody that I've gotten to know from Mountain Brook and my experience there, being great representatives of our school system, athletic department, basketball program, et cetera, et cetera. So, Warren, thank you for your time, and thanks for joining us on the podcast today.
Thank you. We'll see you February 3rd wearing Aggie colors in Tuscaloosa.
You'll have to find me some new merch. All right. This is William Galloway on the Mountain Brook Schools podcast. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next time. Be sure to like and subscribe.